Okay, I think we're live. We just got the thumbs up from Caroline.
We're good to go.
Yeah, everyone, welcome to today's webinar on tactics, tools, tips, and tricks Amazon sellers need for a successful product launch. My name is Corey Checketts. I'm responsible for understanding our customers' needs and to be a conduit for the voice of the customer to our company. I work with our product team to evolve the product and coordinate on promoting improvements and new releases that benefit our customers and Amazon sellers at large.
And I'm Shay Phelps-Peden. I'm an account manager with the Seller Labs Managed Services team. That means I work directly with Amazon sellers to make sure that their advertising strategy is in place and to provide the day-to-day support for those strategies.
So let's kick off the webinar with an interesting stat. According to Market Pulse, approximately 3,392 people start selling on Amazon every day. So what does that actually mean? Well, that's essentially 3,392 product launches on Amazon every day.
It's crazy to think about, for sure.
Yeah, that's a lot of products. And so if you add that up over the course of a month, that's the equivalent of almost the same number of products found in a Walmart supercenter. So think about like the last time you went into a Walmart supercenter and you think of all the aisles, the shelves, just products everywhere. That's what you're up against when you're launching a product on Amazon today in 2019. So, with that in mind, you have that visual. What does it take to really stand out? And that's what we want to cover today, is helping you, the Amazon seller, get your products to stand out, have a successful launch. And, we want you to do what the rocket on the left's doing and not the one on the right. We don't want you to blow up on the launch pad because, you got into business to be successful. You got into business to make a profit and to do things right. So that's what we're here to do to help. So let's kind of go over the agenda, Shay.
Yeah, awesome. So to jump in and really make sure that you are ready to sell on Amazon, there are a couple of things we want to make sure that we're covering. First up is going to be retail readiness. So making sure that your products are ready to go in front of millions of shoppers. Next up is going to be advertising. So talking about different strategies and how those strategies are actually going to differ from strategies you may currently be using for products that are already on Amazon.
Yeah, and we'll finish up today talking about product reviews. And we'll discuss the first 5 product reviews and how important they are to you as a seller launching a product, as well as Amazon's early reviewer program. And then, how to actually ask for product reviews.
All right, so let's jump right in. Here in retail readiness, we're going to talk about a couple of different topics. Breaking those down will look like detail page necessities, enhanced brand content, also known as A+ content now, backend keywords, and testing and optimizing. All right, so when we talk about that detail page, there are some necessities that we want to make sure we're hitting on. First, of course, is going to be that product title. So drawing in your shoppers, followed by bullet points, product description, images, and then pricing and item status.
Yeah, let's dive in here with a product title. So this is a slide I created to show what I think is a good product title, and I think you all would agree that the Instapot has been a huge success on Amazon. So why not learn from those who are doing it the best? And you can see that right up front, Instapot's really great in including the brand name front and center. And then they include the model number, which may not seem relevant, but if you're someone like me who's looking for kind of weird parts and stuff on Amazon, a model number can help you cut right to the chase and find the right product you want without sifting through different products or adding lots of keywords. And then the Instapot is really good at showing the features too. They talk about it's programmable, it's a pressure cooker. They include the size because people are looking for specific sizes and features. And then obviously adding the latest model to your product title is really important. And then the type of product it is. And if you notice here that it's not stuffed with a bunch of keywords. There isn't a bunch of promo stuff in the title and an overuse of exclamation points, stuff like that. You may think that those are eye-catching, but they're really not, because people are actually searching, and you want to match those the searches with what the product is and how you would describe the product. And just an overview. Keep your product titles shorter than 200 characters. And, you know, this one does a really good job. It's at 143 characters. That's with the spaces and 22 words. So it's really tight. It's really succinct. And it tells exactly what the product is and what it can deliver right up front. Next, we're going to move into the bullet points. Amazon, as you know, provides 5 slots for you to write bullet points on the detail page. So definitely use every single space that Amazon provides. So in this section, just be really, really concise and quick with what you're writing. Make it so it's skimmable. I know a lot of sellers will put, you know, all caps on like the keywords that they want to stand out for the shopper who just is browsing through. They want to look at something real quick and move on. Again, this is not the place. You don't want to be keyword stuffing and putting, you know, egregious phrases and things that just don't describe your product. You want to be to the point. And here we go. Here's another example from the Instapot. You can see that they do a really good job in their bullet points by describing what the product does. They show the features and the benefits. There's plenty of long tail keywords in here. Again, there's no keyword stuffing, and they're not making any false claims. So, you know, go through and, you know, I always tell people, go look at products that, you know, you want to be like, that you're emulating, who you think are the rock stars on Amazon. And you can learn a lot by what they're doing. You know, again, don't copy, but it's good to learn from those who are doing it well.
Definitely. And we talked about the bullet points there. So of course you want to make those kind of short, grab people's attention. A lot of times that's all that your shopper is going to read, but it's also just as important to build out that product description. So when I'm building out or encouraging a client to build out a new product description, I'm always talking to them about considering what you need to know as the shopper. So it's always really important to think about questions that maybe you would have, or I even encourage some of my clients to show their product off to maybe a friend or a family member and have them come up with a couple of questions, because those are going to be questions that just kind of come organically about. And if you can go ahead and address those in the product description, it's going to help you reduce the possibility of refunds or bad reviews further down the line. This is really your opportunity to educate and really kind of set yourself apart in terms of explaining the purpose, talking about what kind of solution this actually provides and how it sets you apart from the competition. Super important to take advantage of that product description. And it's really also your main opportunity to provide that insight and build that confidence in your product. This is a really great example of what a product description looks like. This particular product description comes from a set of Bluetooth headphones here. So you can see there's a lot of great information. It's not too much information because you do want to be careful of that, but it gets across everything that you would really need to know. So calling out specific features like being Alexa enabled, talking about, you know, how they're wireless and really kind of making them fit into the shopper's lifestyle. It's a really great example of a solid product description. All right, images. I will be the first to say a lot of times when I'm shopping on Amazon, I'm just looking at the images. So it's so important to maximize the visualization that you have here and to really take advantage of that opportunity to show off your product. We're talking about a product that a lot of times your shopper's never really going to have the opportunity to touch, feel, get those senses for outside of just ordering it on Amazon. So this is your chance to really show it off. First thing, you want to make sure that you have some good high resolution images. I typically recommend that my clients actually spend a little extra money, get some professional pictures taken of these new products. And of course, you need to feature that first or have the product featured on a white background for the first product image. So a couple of things to keep in mind there. This is also a really great opportunity to show off some different things. So think product packaging, lifestyle images. If you have certain size or scale features that you want to show off, do it. This is a really great opportunity for visualization of your product. These are some really solid examples going back to those Bluetooth headphones. You'll see in that first image there that it's really an infographic. So it's calling out that they're noise canceling. It's talking about the battery life. You're seeing a lot of great features spelled out, something your shopper is going to see without ever having to take a look at those bullet points or taking a look at the product description. The second, of course, is going to be a really solid image of the headphones that they're receiving, followed by an image that showcases everything that's going to come with that particular product. I love when clients actually kind of show everything that's going to come in the box. It really sets a solid expectation for your shopper. And certainly not least here, the last one we're showing is going to be a lifestyle image. So if you can get an image showing how your product is going to fit into the life of your shopper, they're even more likely to convert on that particular product. All right, so one other thing I want to make sure that we're touching on during this webinar is pricing and item status. When you're launching a new product, hopefully you've done a lot of legwork, you've done some development work, but it's really important to keep a couple of extra things in mind. When we're looking and we're setting up the product detail page, think about things like appropriate pricing. So if you do a quick search on Amazon, you see competitor products that are very similar and your pricing is extremely out of line, you're going to need to find a way to address that in your product listing. So definitely think about that when you're setting up your product detail page. Make sure your pricing is appropriate, or at least find a way to show why you're having maybe a higher price point or it's different in some way. The other side is inventory management. This is a conversation that we have a lot. So making sure that even though it's a product launch, you have enough product to not be labeled as out of stock or low stock very quickly. This is super important in the sense that, you may only get one shot at that particular shopper. If you lose them because of an out of stock or a low stock tag, there's a good chance they're never going to come back and it's a lost sell for you. So just plan accordingly.
Great. So let's talk about A+ content, formerly enhanced brand content. I guess that just changed yesterday. So we'll have to get used to calling it A+ content across the board now, which is fine. But this is an opportunity where you can tell the story of your brand and really showcase your product and how it can benefit a person's life. Show the value, and you can, tell a narrative that talks about the product. And it really helps set your brand apart from other similar products as well.
100%. All right, definitely some tips and tricks that go along with A+ content, otherwise known as EBC. You're going to hear us probably say that a lot while we're talking today, just to make sure everybody's clear on what we're talking about. Some tips and tricks you're going to want to think about: professional images. We talked a little bit earlier about your product images. These should be different than the images that you're using in the product listing. So this is your opportunity to tell your story. Include your brand's logo, some different lifestyle images, and you can, of course, have some imagery relating back to the product, but just consider making it very unique. This is your chance to kind of advertise your brand and to set yourself apart. So think about ways to be original. Aside from the images, the other way to do this is, some original verbiage and copy content. So just make sure that you're selling yourself. Never sell yourself short as a seller on Amazon. This is your opportunity to truly be professional. A good way to do that, of course, is addressing any questions that you may have. So anticipate what those questions are. Use this area to address those, and also address your pain points. Like, tell me why, as a shopper, I should be purchasing this product, and how you're going to fix or provide a solution for whatever my need may be. That's where you're going to see the most success. And then last but not least, less is more. You want to build out something that's very professional looking. You want to provide enough content, but at the end of the day, shoppers aren't spending a ton of time on product pages. So just keep in mind that you need to keep it somewhat concise.
And one other thing just to add on top of that, make sure that you are part of Amazon's brand registry. That's the only way you're going to have access to A+ content, which you should be doing that anyway, just to protect yourself, your brand, from counterfeits, etc. We're not going to go too much into that, but be aware that you need to be part of that program.
It's a great call out, Corey.
So we're going to look at two really good examples of A+ content and kind of show, the similarities between the two and what they're doing right. So we have Death Wish coffee, which is a favorite around here. They tend to drink it around the gallon here at the office. And Bose headphones, we really like those as well because we work in an open office. They're great product, both of them. But you can see right at the top, there's the call out for, the branding. So when I scroll down to this, I immediately know what brand I'm dealing with. If, the top didn't give it away, at least here, you'll be really clear on what you're looking at. And then moving down the page, we go into the value proposition. So this is the section that you need to use to really express the value that you provide to your potential customers, and what makes your product different from other products. What makes you stand out? Doesn't need to be long, as you can tell. This is a pretty short paragraph. Don't overthink it and keep it concise. going further down the page here, we have more of these lifestyle photos. You see people using the product. They look happy. They look like they're enjoying the product. They're getting some benefit out of it. These, like what Shay said, really invest in some good high quality images. They go a long way, and they really set your brand apart from maybe those who aren't investing in the strong imagery and good imagery like this. And then obviously you want to call out the different features and functions that the product does. This is where you can get really in depth on kind of the technical aspects and the things that really set your product different from other people. This isn't like the value proposition area. This is where you can really focus on, this is why my product's better, and this is why it's going to make your life better.
All right, so backend keywords. We're going to quickly touch base on this. As an Amazon seller, you should be very familiar with backend keywords. Just think of these as those hidden keywords. So these are those keywords that are happening on the back end that you're controlling as the seller to give Amazon some additional insights into the listing. These are so important because this is how Amazon is going to determine what you're going to index for in terms of search hits. So it's really important to make sure that these are clean and these are concise. Couple of tips and tricks when we're talking about backend keywords. Always remember that there is a 249 byte limit. It's important to note that if you're talking about the alphabet, that's 1 byte, but if we're talking about certain symbols, that could be 2 or 3 bytes. So just kind of keep that in mind. There are definitely a couple of resources online to count those bytes. I highly encourage you to take a look just to make sure that your bytes, you're fully utilizing your bytes however you can, since there is such a strong limit on those. This is also the place that you're going to want to include any popular abbreviations or alternative names. I'm from the deep South, so sometimes, how I refer to something compared to how Corey refers to something may be different. This is a really great opportunity to plug that in and to use that. So if it's not in your title, you're still going to index. It's another thing to remember, refrain from using irrelevant keywords. You're going to hear us talking about that. You heard Corey mention it earlier. Amazon knows the algorithm is going to pick up on any sort of padding that you may do with irrelevant keywords. You're not going to trick the system, so try not to put those in there. Essentially, it's just a waste of your bytes. And then no need to repeat keywords. This also goes for making keywords plural. So if it's, dog versus dogs, you can include dog, not have to worry about that again. All plays back into taking full advantage of the 249 bytes. And then, of course, avoid duplicating any content. So if you've included it in the title or the bullet, not necessary to throw it back into those backend keywords. I know some sellers do. The official word is that it doesn't matter, and you might as well make sure that you're taking advantage of those 249 bytes however you can.
Oh, good advice. Good practice as well. Let's talk about A/B testing. So this is maybe just a little bit more advanced. We kind of went over some real brass tack stuff. But A/B testing is a great way to find, if you want to discover what message works better, like your headline or bullet points, especially images. A/B testing is a great way to get feedback on an image that you want to use, but you're not quite sure if it's the right image, and you're torn between the two. And so there's a nifty service out there called PickFu that will actually let you test these kinds of things out. This is independent of Amazon because you can't actually test on Amazon. Right. You have to use a different service, but then depending on the results, you can plug it into your Amazon detail page. So with PickFu, you get to test elements of your detail page to a US audience of thousands of customers. So it's fairly large. And there's demographic targeting. And you'll get unbiased feedback on your ideas, your images, and you get real-time results, which is really key.
Yeah, it's amazing when you're launching a new product.
Yeah, and we did a couple of tests here around the office with some seller friends of ours, and we got feedback within half an hour?
Yeah, within 30 minutes. I think we had over 100 responses. It was great.
Yeah, and we're going to show you one of the tests that we did. So we had a friend of ours who sells these socks. He wanted to get some more feedback on kind of what image looked better. He wanted to add this to, I think, his A+ content. And he's like, I kind of like them both, but which one do you think's better? We're like, well, let's run the test. Yeah. So we ran it on PickFu, and here's the results that we got. As you can see, 69 of the 100 people liked the first image more. And so, that seems like a pretty resounding yes, that, you should use that one over option B. But what's better is we got all this great feedback from the people who actually voted. They gave us some insight. And these things are really helpful because if you start to recognize patterns, that'll give you some direction into what you should do. If you get a lot of one-off, like, nah, I don't really like it, the color looks bad. But if you get like the majority of people are like, oh, the coloring is really horrible, like that's some pretty good feedback that you probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise if you just published it to Amazon. So highly recommend doing this. In really every facet of your business, you should be testing things all the time.
I will also say when you're launching a new product, what was really cool to me is when you do get these responses, you can sort them. So you can filter them by male, female, ages, some other different demographics in there. And if you know the audience you're trying to speak to, and hopefully you do if you're launching this new product, it gives you an opportunity to find out what relevant shoppers are going to think about your product. So I think it's a really great service. I enjoyed playing with the filters. I know you did as well.
Yeah, it was really great. So definitely check out PickFu. A lot of cool stuff.
All right, so let's jump in and talk about advertising. There's a couple of things we want to make sure that we're touching on when referencing advertising for a new product. So of course, understanding expectations, always so important for every facet of your business, but particularly pertaining to advertising. We also want to talk about strategizing for long-term success here. So understanding, some different strategies that you may want to have in place and really making sure that you're set up for long-term success with those particular campaigns. And then maybe give you guys a little bit more tactical information as well in terms of designing your launch campaigns. All right, guys, expectations, always so important. We would all love to see money just coming in like that for new products, but there is such a thing as unrealistic expectations. So a lot of times, clients and sellers will think, okay, immediate success. Like, this is a great product. I'm really excited about it. And you definitely should be as a seller, but it's also important to understand that you may not see immediate success with that. The majority of products do not gain high levels of traffic from day one. It takes time to build that momentum and for Amazon to throw traffic at you. So having those expectations in check and also understanding that you're probably not going to have a low ACoS from day one, really important here. In terms of realistic expectations, there's 3 things that I would definitely encourage you to think about. So understand that gaining that velocity and that traffic does take some time. Not only does Amazon have to index your product and make sure that it's throwing the correct traffic at it, it just takes time to gather the data that you're going to need to further optimize your campaigns as well. The other side of that, of course, is some higher advertising costs. It's a new product, it's unproven. You really have to expose it to as many shoppers as you can to really get that traffic moving. So you are going to have some higher advertising costs associated with it. Another thing that I always encourage my clients to think about is ACoS versus ACoP. Let's dive in here. Let's talk a little bit more there. So if we're talking about advertising cost of sale versus advertising cost of profit, they're different equations here. If we're actually just looking at ACoS, we're only thinking about your ad revenue versus the advertising spend you have. It's going to look a little different than if you're comparing your spend to your organic and paid sales for that particular product. I always recommend looking at the ACoP on a new product and of course at your business overall. So just going to keep that in mind as well. All right, so strategizing for long-term success. Another couple of things we want to make sure we're keeping in mind here. So it's always important to understand that it just takes a different approach. You have to have those different expectations that we just spoke about, and you really have to have a different perspective when you're advertising these new products. You may have very efficient campaigns already set up for advertising your other products, but this is going to be a little bit different. And I always recommend that my clients kind of go into it very open and understanding that things will be different. And then it's also important to isolate that new product. So if you isolate how you're advertising that new product, it's going to help you have a better kind of gauge of the success. And it's going to also help you gain velocity. You're going to have your own budget associated with that particular product. You're going to be able to really control the bids that are associated. It just gives you a little more control over, really propelling yourself towards success here. All right. And last but not least, designing a launch campaign. So it's also really important to kind of understand this process behind setting up campaigns for these new products. So of course, the first thing you want to do is make sure that your campaigns are scalable. I always talk to my clients and strategize coming up with ways to understand the budget that you can actually afford for that new product. You want to make sure that you have a healthy budget, but you also want to understand the keywords that are going to be important for that new product. You're not going to have a ton of research to necessarily go off from the very beginning. So understanding the product, understanding the keywords, and then of course, a lot of people overlook this, but nomenclature for your product or for your campaign for your new product. Make it clean, keep it separate. It's always something that you want to think about when setting up those new campaigns. After you set up those campaigns, they start to run. Start measuring the performance. Analyze that ACoS versus ACoP. Think about what does success look like for this new product for you? It may be sales performance. It may just be getting some traffic here. There's a lot of different metrics that you can use to measure success, but it's important that you're measuring it. You just don't want to set your campaigns and forget them, which leads right into kind of the final step here when you're starting this new campaign. So iterate and optimize. You have to make sure that you're using the data that's coming in from those cells and from that traffic to make decisions going forward. If you're operating against a 75% ACoS, make sure that you're looking at the data and that you're optimizing based on that. Understand what those goals are and then take it from there. Make sure you are in there and optimizing with a regular cadence though. All right. And then just a couple of tips and tricks when you are designing that launch campaign. We touched on it earlier, realistic budget expectations. If you only have a $10 daily budget, but you're actually bidding on keywords that cost $1, you're really only going to get 10 clicks there. It just doesn't make sense. So you want to have a realistic budget expectation, and that actually feeds right into the next 2 points as well. So resist heavy diversification. If you're bidding on let's say 25 keywords and they each have $1 bid and you only have that $10 budget, again, not going to go very far. So really focus in on what you can do there and what a real expectation should look like, or a realistic expectation should look like. Also cut out costly keywords. If you know that keyword's average cost per click is going to be $1.75 and you only have $1 or $10 a day to spend, it just doesn't make sense to bid on it. Make sure that you're thinking about those type of things up front. And then use those search terms that you think that you want to bid on to size up the competition. I always encourage my clients to do some additional research. We do on our side, we do some digging on the competition in terms of understanding, what keywords they're going after, what they're actually ranking for. It's really common sense just to go on Amazon, kind of search, what you may think that you're relevant for and see what comes up. It's going to help you understand the landscape a little bit better as well. And then, of course, use that simple nomenclature as you go forward with optimizing your campaigns. If this is something that you're managing in-house, you have a lot on your plate. You just need to make it as simple as possible.
That's great. Thank you, Shay. All right, product reviews. This seems to be everyone's favorite topic, next to advertising, of course. So in this section, I'm going to cover the first 5 product reviews, how important they are to your overall launch, the early reviewer program, and then how to actually ask for product reviews. Okay, so the first 5 product reviews, Amazon says on its own site that the first product review can increase sales up to 3.5 times. So that's not 5 product reviews, that's 1 product review. Yeah. So that shows kind of how impactful they are. And in reviews help a product get discovered organically. They help with the search rank and they build customer trust. And remember that the opinions of previous purchasers is the currency of the marketplace. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. So this is a mechanical pencil. I was doing some research before putting the webinar together, and no shock here, but I found this on the very last page at the very bottom. You can see 0 product reviews. So that kind of feels like, when you're in middle school and you go to a school dance, the only one on the dance floor, you're pretty vulnerable. And because no one wants to be that person, we all want validation and we want social proof in order for us to take action. So here's a similar product. As you can tell, there are 5 product reviews. Again, they're not 5-star reviews. These are, it has an average of 4 stars. So this, just even with these reviews, 5 stars showed up at the bottom of page 1. This was about a week ago, so it could have changed by then. But this many product reviews can start to make it feel like this. You want to get on the dance floor. You want to be part of the movement. You don't want to be the first person out there, but you sure want to join in when everyone's out there having a good time. That's, understand that that's kind of how people view your products. That's how I view products when I shop online. Is, do I really want to take the risk with this? I'm spending my money on this. I don't want to get a bad product. But it is a chicken and the egg kind of thing too. How do you get those first product reviews? It's really, it can be really difficult. But then again, like what Shay said, the advertising can help, can build some momentum. Having a good detail page, all of those things contribute into your product's discoverability. But product reviews are what are really going to help you get some traction once you go live. So continuing on with this theme, the early reviewer program, this is an Amazon sponsored program. You can enroll in the program via Seller Central. And so what this does, Amazon will encourage people who have already purchased your product to leave a review. So they're not finding people to come buy your product and leave a review. These are people who have already purchased it, but they maybe didn't feel compelled to leave a review. So Amazon will incentivize them with a $1 to $3 gift card, gift bonus that they can use on Amazon. So, there's some incentive there on their end. And it'll cost you $60 plus, whatever your taxes are to enroll into the program, but you're not charged until you receive your first review. And then you have up to a year to get to be enrolled in the program, or until your first 5 reviews are received from that program. So hopefully it doesn't take you a year to get 5 reviews from the early reviewer program, but it does exist. And your product can't be priced below $9. It needs to be $9 and above to be eligible for the program. And if you poke around Amazon, you can start seeing where these reviews are. Here we can see here in the box that it says early reviewer reward. So Amazon's really working hard to be as transparent as possible to their consumers. They put the buyer first, and this is one way that they're doing that. It shows that there was an incentive for this person to leave a review. This one happened to be 5 stars. Again, you're not going to get 5-star reviews. It's not guaranteed. Just be happy with what you get, and that's kind of the risk that you take enrolling in this program. So hopefully your product's good enough. And then more importantly, you should be asking for product reviews. And so, Amazon's terms of service, it says a lot. There's like 17 different sections around this topic. I read it most days to see, what's changed. We always want to be on top of, what's going on Amazon. But Amazon says that, well, first off, you can't ask for product review, a positive product review rather. That's pretty obvious. And then you can't ask for a review if a buyer only had a positive experience. So with that out of the way, you should be asking for reviews. But we found out last year during a survey that half of Amazon sellers, they don't even realize that they can ask for a product review. So that's pretty alarming because you're leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. And as the famous Michael Scott said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, signed by Michael Scott. And it's true. We hear this a lot. It's almost a trope, but yeah, if you're not asking, you're not going to be getting reviews for better or for worse. So you need to be asking. Okay, so how do you actually ask for reviews? Well, the easiest way is to use an autoresponder or a automated buyer seller messaging system. We have Feedback Genius. That's obviously what we're going to promote. We want people to use it because it sends emails automatically after a purchase. And you can send one email to whomever buys from you each purchase. So the things that you want to ask in these emails, well, you want to show that you value the buyer's opinion. You want to educate them on how product reviews help other sellers like themselves discover products, try new products. So there is that validation. So, they're not the only one on the dance floor when they're looking for new products. Ask things like, how did it work? What did you like? Be personal and empathetic. Talk about how you're a small business owner and their opinion helps. And then use a call to action that links back to your review page. And this is a more long-term strategy, but I call it the nobody buys a bad product twice. So what does that mean? Well, I buy a protein powder on Amazon about every month. I buy the same one. I buy it over and over again because I like the product. And so if you sell a product like this that is going to be consumed a lot, any consumable, this is a really unique opportunity where you can send a message just to those repeat buyers. So you can send, the first message to the first time buyer and say, hey, thank you for buying the product. Here's a PDF, whatever you want to use to enhance the experience about how to use the product. But if the buyer buys from you a second time, you can actually send them a second message, completely automatic, using Feedback Genius. And you can also send a unique message up to the third time and the fourth time. So doing this will actually help build loyalty and help build your brand on Amazon. And yeah, it's called the repeat buyer filter in Feedback Genius. I always recommend people use this. It's a home run if you're looking for product reviews and looking to build loyalty. And we actually have a case study that Caroline's going to post a link to that talks about one of our customers who used this exact strategy, and they were able to increase their sales by 50%, and 30% of those were customers who reordered a second time. So, I mean, those are some pretty dramatic results.
Healthy growth there.
Yeah, very good. And, they became a category leader within 4 months. And to this day, they have hundreds of verified Amazon reviews. And this is completely, you can do this based on Amazon's terms of service. So yeah, be asking for those product reviews. They're out there. And to help you understand kind of what is permissible within Amazon's terms of service, we've also put together a checklist for buyer-seller messaging. And just kind of the highlights I want to talk about here is that, you can't add links to any website outside of Amazon. You can't even actually link back to your detail page. You can link back to basically the page where they can leave a product review or seller feedback. But like in your logo, you can have a link to, your website, and you cannot include your URL inside of your logo, as well as marketing and promotional material. So Caroline's also going to put that tip sheet in the chat. That's a really helpful resource. And I really hope you all take advantage of that. So yeah, let's just do a recap of what we covered today.
Yeah, running back through this, a couple of things we want to make sure that keeping in mind, just as you launch that new product, retail readiness is so important. So making sure that your detail page necessities are all together, they make sense to the shopper, they appeal to the shopper. Making sure that your enhanced brand content or A+ content is ready to go and actually sells your brand. Make sure that it really inspires confidence in the brand that you are offering. And then of course your backend keywords. So making sure that you're relevant for indexing on Amazon, and then testing and optimizing, making sure that you're getting some really great responses to your product before you even launch it, before you're putting it up in front of millions of shoppers and you're paying for advertising. Make sure that things are good to go and people are going to respond well to it. All right, so in terms of advertising, again, it's all about understanding your expectations, strategizing for long-term success, and making sure that you have launch campaigns that are scalable, and they're also going to really drive home the results that you need for that new product. So taking into account the goals that you have for that specific product, getting those campaigns set up, and also understanding that, maybe you're not the best equipped to do your advertising. It's okay to ask for help, to raise your hand and look for an agency like Seller Labs Managed Services to come in and help you with that. There's nothing wrong with that in terms of advertising, because you've got to get your product out there.
Yeah, and finally, product reviews. I know we just talked about it, but remember the first 5 product reviews, your first product review can actually really propel you and get you a lot of traction. Check out the early reviewer program. It might be something you're interested in. Yeah. Again, Amazon's not going to guarantee perfect results, and you run the risk of, getting negative product reviews, but it does exist and you can use it to your advantage, as well as, ask for product reviews, read that case study, check out Feedback Genius. It's, we offer a free trial on it. So there's really no reason not to use it. And the plans are extremely affordable after your trial. So definitely recommend using that service, as well as asking for reviews. I guess so with all of that, you should be ready to go and ready to launch that product. And continuing on, again, thanks for everyone who joined today. We are going to do some Q&A. We just want to get some announcements out of the way here of some upcoming events that Seller Labs is doing. If you're here, you're obviously interested in doing events or in joining events that we have. But we have a Mastermind Summit on October 10th. And we have some really great panelists. You're probably familiar with most of these people. I've met most of these people. They're insanely smart, really good people, and they're here to help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Caroline is going to put a link in the chat to register for this, but they're going to be talking honestly about a lot of hot topics going on in the Amazon space. So you definitely want to be a part of this. And lastly, we are doing a Seller Labs live event, 2 Seller Labs live event, excuse me. The first one is in Denver, Colorado on October 22nd, and the second one in Chicago, Illinois on October 29th. And I'm guessing our very own Jeff Cohen will probably be at least one of those if it's in Chicago.
I would imagine so. And these are going to be workshop style events. They're going to be designed to help grow your business. I'm super excited about them, and we hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, check them out. Again, the link's there, and I believe Caroline is going to put that in the chat. So without further ado, we have about 15 minutes or so to answer some questions. So we're going to flip over to some of the questions that we have here. Oh boy, we got a few.
Ooh, okay.
Let's start with the first one. Question is, what size and pixels do you recommend for the images?
That is a really great question. There are some very specific images out there. One thing I always encourage my clients to focus on, though, is when you go and you're putting up images on your listing, make sure that not only are there those high qualities that we can get you guys some information on, but also make sure that when you're kind of hovering over those and you're magnifying those, that it takes up the majority of the space. So when you think about that white background space on your product image, make sure that you're filling out as much of that as possible.
Okay, let's do this other one here. What is the best way to gain organic rankings for keywords?
Ooh, that is a good one, Corey.
Oh, that's like the never-ending question. So I'm going to go off of kind of my experience when I've helped sellers. I've used our program Scope to help discover keywords that A, get a lot of traffic, and B, are known to drive a lot of conversions. So obviously, the better the keyword is, the more competition is going to be for that keyword.
Yep.
But then if you're take like what Shay said, incorporating them strategically in your backend, your detail page. That's one of the best ways organically to do that. And then product reviews obviously help bolster your product up. Do you have anything?
Yeah, another thing I just want to make sure that I'm adding in here is constantly monitor the search term report that you have in Seller Central. So make sure that you understand, are there changes in the trends that you're seeing? Are you seeing new keywords that are really important to your product or driving traffic to your product? And then also incorporate those as well. So there's a lot of great things that you can do there. But more than anything, don't set it and forget it. Like, make sure that you know what's changing and what may be driving new traffic as well.
Okay, yeah, great answer.
Yeah.
This one's really interesting here. What is the appropriate space to add disclaimers? More than one. Example, not a low-calorie food.
Ooh, that is a good one there. Go ahead, Corey.
I was just thinking maybe even one of the images.
I would say like sometimes it's not even necessarily about a disclaimer. It's about education. So if you can take maybe not a low-calorie food and maybe change that into something a little bit more positive, throw it into an infographic. I think that when we actually showed the A+ content back for help me out here for coffee here for Death Wish.
For Death Wish,
they had a really great infographic at the bottom there that kind of pointed out some different specific facts. I would take a look at that and see if somehow maybe you could incorporate that disclaimer into something a little bit more positive and then putting it in that infographic.
No, that's great. All right, let's look at this one. For generating ratings and reviews, does the Amazon Vine program allow for perishable food items for Amazon Fresh? It's kind of small type here. We have done other live sampling programs in store to syndicate out for other retailers. I'll be honest, I am not well versed in Amazon Fresh.
Yeah, I cannot speak to the Amazon Fresh side of things, but we could definitely get some follow-up information on that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely piqued my interest. We're going to look into that. Okay, what is the importance of keywords, alt image text in enhanced brand content / A+ content? Yeah, of keyword alt image text. So
we both need new glasses, Corey.
I know. I'm like super old here. Well, we have a low light as well, so that's not helping. I guess that goes back to talking about, is enhanced brand content indexed?
Yes, that's a great question. So when you're thinking about that, it's not necessarily indexed. So it's important to make sure that if there's any sort of important keyword information, that you're including that somewhere else. So whether that's in Backend Keywords, the title, product description, bullet points, make sure it's somewhere there. Don't solely rely on that EBC or that A+ content.
Yeah, that's a great answer. You want to shift over to some advertising questions?
Yeah, we definitely can.
Okay, let's do this one. Would you run sponsored ads on an ASIN that has less than a 4-star rating?
That's a great question. That's actually a question that we get quite often on the managed services side. It really depends what your goal here is, and what else you're advertising. So there's a couple of different strategies for that. It is a little concerning sometimes when a client will come to me and say, hey, I want to run this on something that maybe has a 3-star. You have to keep in mind that when we are advertising those ASINs, when a shopper sees that sponsored product ad, it may be pitted next to something that actually has a 5-star.
Yeah.
So just something to keep in mind, and also understand, what else are you going to be presented next to? But that's definitely kind of a case-by-case scenario that we discuss with our clients.
No, it's good knowledge. Here's an interesting one. Are first-party sellers able to enroll in early reviewer program? I'm not going to speak doctrine to this because I don't actually spend a lot of time working with 1P sellers. But what I talked about with the early reviewer program is in Seller Central, which is for third-party sellers.
Correct.
But you may want to look in. I know there are sellers who do hybrid models who also sell third-party, so that could be a good opportunity to try it out. And I know the programs between the two have blended more. A+ content used to be primarily for 1P sellers, and then it was enhanced brand content, and now it's A+ content for everyone. So look into that, but I can only speak to third-party sellers on that.
I think the next question is actually a really good one, and it's one that I hear a lot. Is it allowed to include an insert into the product asking the customer for a review on the product? So essentially, this is asking kind of, behind the scenes, is it okay to get around Amazon's terms of service in terms of sending an email? It's always a little concerning from our point of view when we hear a client say that, because that can go against the terms of services. If maybe if you're saying, hey, I'll give you something in exchange for that review, you don't want to do that.
Yep.
Worst case scenario, not only do you get reported, but maybe a competitor buys your product just to see what's going on. They see that insert and then they turn you into Amazon.
Happens.
It does happen. That's a horror story that I've heard more than once. I'm sure you have
absolutely.
as well, Corey. So we always tell our clients, play by the rules. I know it can be very tempting, especially if you see other sellers that maybe you're doing something they shouldn't be. You don't want to do that. You don't want to get suspended from Amazon. You don't want to cost your business. So just play by the terms of service.
Yeah, I agree. And the last thing you want is to be flagged with a review manipulation.
Exactly.
And Amazon has recently, in the last couple of weeks, really made a lot of changes in their verbiage of how they talk about it. And the latest one that I've seen is that they will release your name publicly. For people who, are doing review manipulation, and they've actually added a lot more terms of, like legal precedents as well. So, I mean, they take this stuff very serious, much more than they ever have in the past.
And to be fair, I do agree. I'm seeing more and more sellers that are being impacted if they're not playing by the rules. I mean, honestly, I believe it's probably going to get more strict and more severe as we go forward.
Yeah,
without
I
a doubt.
As well. So just, err on the side of doing the right thing. That's what we, in short, want you to do and should do. Okay, what if I already launched a product and didn't get enough traction? What is plan B?
Oh, this is a good question. This is something,
question.
Especially if you're selling a seasonal product. Maybe you launched it last year, it didn't go well. Now you need to kind of essentially relaunch it. This is something that we talk about with clients quite often. Really, this can be a little case specific, but think of it as a relaunch. What have you done to improve the conversions that you had? So I always recommend that my clients kind of look back at the data, understand, were you getting traffic to your product, but it wasn't converting? Were you not getting enough traffic? From an advertising standpoint, understanding those metrics and what was happening there can help you understand where you need to improve. If it's a listing issue, it may be an opportunity for you to get a listing optimization service. So having a professional come in and say, you can improve on your images, your bullet points, and almost reworking your entire product listing for you would be a really great opportunity to improve your chances of success this season.
Yeah, and I would go even a little deeper too and look at kind of, obviously I don't understand your situation. I'd like to, it's interesting. But look at like what kind of product reviews you got the first time, and look at, what kind of questions were being asked on your detail page. And that will tell you a lot. Like, is it a listing issue or is it a product issue?
Yeah,
Because if it's a product issue, like what we talked about today isn't really going to help you.
Yeah, and sometimes if it's a product issue, you just need to reposition the product in a way. There are a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different solutions here. Get creative. I know that's kind of some broad advice based on the situation, but again, it's very situational. And best of luck in relaunching the season.
Yeah, and we hope this helps you out. Okay, how about launching products when Amazon doesn't allow ads? Best practices. Launching products.
That's a good one. So if we're talking about specific product categories that Amazon doesn't allow you to run ads on, it really is all about making sure that you are retail ready from my standpoint. You are collecting some really strong reviews, because ultimately you cannot lean on advertising to send traffic to that particular product. It's definitely a unique situation. Amazon is also cracking down on what you can and cannot advertise. So we've seen clients recently that have been able to advertise in the past, and suddenly they can't. So that is definitely a very tricky situation to be in.
Yeah, I don't really know what more to add to that beyond, we talked about Prime Day stuff a couple months ago, and we talked a lot about actually outside stuff that you can do, on Facebook, Instagram, etc. Talking about your product, generating buzz about your product outside of Amazon, and hopefully that will bring people to Amazon to try your product out.
It's a really great strategy to take.
Yeah, so definitely look into that. It's not a bad idea. And let's see. It looks like we got a few more questions and some time here. Oh, how about this one, Shay? How many keywords should your listing be optimized for?
Oh, that's a little bit tricky. So obviously you want to make sure that you're including any type of important keyword that could be indexed. And like I said, those titles, those bullet points, product description. Of course, you are limited there. You're also limited on what the characters you can use, or I'm sorry, the bytes you can use on the backend keywords. From an advertising perspective, though, I say, there's a couple of different approaches. If it's a new product, it's all about experimentation. You may be using sensible keywords, maybe even doing some keyword research in a product like Scope. There's a lot of different, takes on that. Not necessarily a specific number that you want to tie to that, but it's all about, building it up and really making sure that you're prepared as possible for that successful launch.
Okay. Yeah, it's great. I echo that for sure. Here's an interesting one. How do some listings have video in their A+ content?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Man, I'm trying to think the last time I've heard this before. I believe there's different tiers of it, and depending on kind of what size of seller you are. Again, don't quote me on it. It's been a minute since I've actually looked into it and tried to help someone with that kind of problem. But yeah, it could be a size, how big your account is, because I know not everyone has that.
Yeah, there's a couple of different variables there. If you have any questions about whether or not you're qualified as a seller to actually get those features, I always recommend just going ahead and reaching out to Amazon on that, get clarification on it. Best case scenario, you actually are able to do it, and you just need some extra help in actually getting it set up.
Okay, here we got some more questions. It looks like we got some more time here. And just off the top, if Caroline hasn't said this in the chat, and I know she has, but I'm going to reiterate it. We are going to have the slides available, and we are going to have a replay of this webinar. So don't worry. This is all going to be made available to you to reference later. So let's see. Any advice on utilizing Facebook, Google, or Instagram marketing for driving external traffic to your listing to help increase sales velocity early on? So yeah, I touched on that a little bit. One thing that we have talked about is like understanding who the influencers are in your space.
Right.
So for instance, like I'm really into cycling and cars and stuff like that. And so if I were to sell cycling apparel, I want to know who kind of the heavy hitters are that I can get access to feature my product, in a paid promotion or a paid post. That's one way of doing it. And obviously you can go into Facebook and Instagram advertising, and there's some really detailed demographics that you can dial in and really get your products in front of people. It's all about how much money do you want to spend really at the end of the day.
Yeah, and taking advantage of those influencers within your space is super important, just like Corey said. We also just dropped a link in the chat that'll give you a little bit more details about off Amazon opportunities and a recent webinar that we had as well.
Yeah. We just did one with Scott Volker, actually. So go check out. I think Caroline put the link in the chat. But yeah, if you don't know who Scott Volker is, please go check him out. He's like a really smart guy, knows a ton about the space. So go check that resource out. He knows way more about it than I do. Let's see. Okay, do you know of any templates used on the agency/account management side for documenting and tracking processes? Example given: product listing detail, changes/optimization, A/B test, account audit, checklist, etc.
I don't think we have any built out resources right now that are publicly facing, but that's definitely something that I think the marketing team we could all work on maybe as a future resource.
Yeah, one that I can give you off the top of my head is if you, again, go try Feedback Genius for free. We have 12 different email templates that you can use out of the box. You can customize them to your business needs. And that way, you can just get started. It'll take you less than half an hour to get rolling. And that's, again, to ask for product reviews, we offer that service out of the box. Okay, that was Caroline helping someone. I don't know what that one says. Can we call someone if we have any options or questions? You can always call the support line on our website.
Yeah, definitely.
They're always here to help.
If you have a question for us, definitely throw it out there.
I mean, I'd give Tyler's number out, but he'd probably kill me. So, okay, Amazon TOS says you can't ask people with positive experience only for a review, but they clearly left a review just in the wrong place. So I'm guessing they left you a review where they, in the seller feedback, would be my guess. Yeah, reach out to them and say, hey, by the way, this was seller feedback. Talk to Seller Central and have them remove it and tell them, hey, this person meant to leave me a product review, but they left it in the feedback section. Do that first.
To echo what Corey just said, that's where we see the most success. So if you know for a fact something like that has happened, go ahead and reach out to Seller Central. They can usually help you with that.
Yep. Definitely go there first. Okay, that was Caroline talking to you. Okay, what are a few tips and tricks for using brand stores to generate sales?
Oh yeah, I do love this from an advertising perspective.
Okay.
So if you've you're brand registered, you've started setting up a storefront within Amazon, definitely make it look professional, make it fun, use some great imagery there. It's something that, we work directly with our clients to help drive traffic to those stores. It's a really great opportunity to sell your brand, to give shoppers a better idea of everything that you have to offer as well. So take full advantage of it.
Okay. Okay, we talked about that one. Where do I download? Okay, we talked about where you can get the presentation. Are you able to ask customers who left positive seller feedback related to the product to leave a review on the product? Okay, yeah, we just addressed a similar question. Tips to lower down your FBA fees. Oh boy.
Oh man,
Good luck.
I wish I had some tips for that.
Sell it. Don't have avoid long-term storage fees.
Yeah, that would be the first thing. Making sure that you actually are going through your inventory, that the inventory that you have is selling at a steady rate. Other than that, like Corey said, we can always be very hopeful that those fees are going to come down.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it though.
Yeah. We can be optimistic though,
we can
right,
be optimistic,
Corey?
yeah, especially with key 4 coming. Let's hope they go down. Okay, what are ways to increase keyword ranking other than using two-step URLs that mimic search, find, buy? First off, that sounds like a super URL, and I wouldn't use those. And my company only sends links to websites for all of its social media posts. Let's see. I know that an optimized listing is the basis, that PPC definitely works, but it seems 2 steps are boosters. I don't know if I read that right. It kind of jumbled up. Yeah. It sounded like you were using a super URL. I would not use that because that's technically manipulating Amazon's search algorithm. So yeah, avoid that. Just, don't try to manipulate anything. Yeah. Follow up on the positive seller question, since I wasn't clear. Are we allowed to ask the customer to repeat the review on the product page? If we just ask Amazon's super support, that's funny. What would they be able to convert it, or would they be able to convert it?
That's a good question. I've never been in a scenario that I've asked Amazon to convert that, so I can't speak to that side of things.
Me neither. The sellers that I have helped, friends and stuff that I've worked with, they've basically just had it removed. So one friend I know, someone left a product review, like not a good product review of the product as seller feedback. And they said, well, that's technically, they contacted Amazon and said, well, that's a product review and not feedback. And it was removed. So I don't know if you can actually get those converted over. Again, when you're dealing with Seller Central, it's kind of out of our hands, it's out of your hands. Disregard.
Got it.
Thank you. Let's go up here. I think we have like time for one more question. Let's see. Maybe we'll go up clear up to the top. Oh, Caroline's been great answering these questions. Okay. On the early reviewer program, what if it's not a positive review?
It's kind of the risk you run when you do use that early review program. They don't guarantee positive reviews. It's a gamble on your part. But again, hopefully if your product listing is truly reflective of your product and you're selling a good product, hopefully you will get some positive reviews from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Take what you get. That's pretty much all I can say on that. One last thing. You guys mentioned a service to get product reviews. Can you provide a link to that service? Yeah, Caroline, put it in.
Perfect.
There you go.
There
Feedback Genius, 30-day free trial. Check it out. I mean, risk-free. You don't like it, move on, but I'm sure you'll love it. And you can upgrade to, we have plans to start at like $20 a month. And you can customize your emails however you want. It's really good service.
It's really great. Definitely make sure you're asking for those reviews though.
Okay. I think that's everything we have for today. It looks like we answered most of the questions here. Thank you for everyone who attended. And again, make sure to check out those live events that we have coming up in Denver on October 22nd, in Chicago on the 29th. And our next webinar will be the Mastermind Summit on October 10th. We appreciate everyone for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, have a good day.